No, I would like to ask the representatives of the various EPALE target groups to join me here on the floor and to share, because they will share with us what they think of the platform and make suggestions for the future of this platform. So they will tell us what kind of carrots they would like to pick up in this platform, in this hub. And the next session will be chaired, animated by Andrew Mccutchen. You have seen him on the video as well. He's joining me now. He has a long experience in adult and education and in working with us, with the Commission in that field. He has conducted many projects to develop policy and practice in the field of education and culture. In particular, the evaluation of how ESF could support lifelong learning. He is also a high-level expert for study on adult learners in digital learning environments, a national expert on EGVET. He also previously was a visiting research fellow at UK Commission for Employment and Skills, so has had many, many links with many of our activities in the field of adult learning. And so he will be the one who will now animate this debate, who will also give you the floor to come up with your ideas, with your suggestions, with your expectations. So I give you the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sophie. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce this final session, in fact, final two sessions, because as you'll see in your program, the last hour is taken up with opportunities to hear very much the perspective of users from, as Sophie said, our target groups, but also in the final 20 minutes or so to get your own views of potential ways in which EPALE might be developed, improved, and also to hear in the spirit of lifelong learning what you might have learnt from today's presentations and activities. In terms of the first session this afternoon, we have 5 individuals who have very kindly agreed to come and give us their perspectives on the platform itself. First off, I'd like to welcome to the lectern Gina Ebner, who is from the European Association of Education for Education of Adults, which has strong links, of course, into to learning providers. Gina, thank you.
Thank you very much. I've been asked to first introduce EAA a bit and then talk about how far we've used EPALE so far and how we're planning to use it. Now, a few words about the European Association. Although quite a few of our members are here, you have already heard from our colleagues from Lithuania, for example, Ramonas. Alan Tuckett, of course, was the head of NIAS, our member in the UK. Mariana from Romania. So basically, we are the representation of non-formal adult education in Europe. We have 123 members in 42 countries at the moment, and we try to do 2 main things. One is to be the voice of adult education, and I do sincerely hope that we're irritating enough. So to try and represent adult education, to underline the visibility and so on. And of course the service, bringing people together, providing tools, especially advocacy tools. So, and basically the big adult education organizations like be it the Volkshochschulen in the German-speaking countries or the study circles and the folk high schools in the Nordic countries, Université Populaire in others are EAA members. Now, when talking about how we have used it so far, and of course, so far, only parts of EPALE have been working, and it's fairly recent. But I have to say, we have been very pleased to be able to show off on EPALE and to use, for example, the events section to present conferences our online peer learning platform that we launched yesterday. So it's been a possibility for us to reach an even wider audience than we are currently doing. Also, the themes we have been looking at, and here we still have bigger hopes, but I think Graciela has already very well explained the use of the themes, and I just want to highlight a few issues, like project results. It was mentioned in the morning. A lot of us work on very good projects and have very good results. And of course, we work a lot on dissemination, but there are always limits of what you can do and how much you can discuss them. So I think this is really a key topic for us as EAA, but also for our members. And of course, best practices, the sharing that part. Now, I don't want to go into that because it's been mentioned a few times and I think we all agree on that. I wanted to draw your attention to a specific group in adult education that I hope EPALE will attract more than we can at the moment. And I want to especially highlight younger adult educators. From EAEA, of course, we have a large network. But for example, if we organize a conference within the EAA, the main people attending the conference will be the directors, the secretary generals of our members, maybe the person responsible for EU issues, or maybe then the person responsible for the particular topic. But in addition to all these people, there is a high number of young adult educators who are out there who don't yet have the opportunity to participate. Or, I myself have a biography that corresponds to that. I used to be a trainer in adult education in Austria, and I was a freelancer, so you don't really have a close relationship to one organization, but you might actually work for 3, 4, or 5. So what are your options to participate in a European debate? And I have to say, we have just seen with the e-learning platform that we launched, for the first introductory session, we had more than 200 people registered, and I think around 150 participated. So there's a huge interest in having a European debate, to sharing issues. So, and I hope that EPALE, and I can say that we will of course encourage that. We have worked with younger staff and we want to use EPALE to do that, that EPALE will be especially strong in reaching out to these adult educators who normally do not have the opportunity to go to a European conference or to participate in a European project and to be involved. And also the hope, of course, is that this generation is so comfortable with an electronic platform that this is, from that point of view, not really a problem at all. Now, I think I want to go and wrap it up and to lead that to a result. I think I also believe, similar to Graciela, that the forums, that the exchange, that the discussion is there. I think we have, on many levels, very good content, very good information, documents, various organizations, and that can be used, but it needs to be targeted and made attractive enough so that people actually respond to that. And then I still have, and in a way I developed that during the day because I really like the concept of irritating policymakers. Sorry, I'm looking at that. What we sometimes say is, in adult education, we sometimes miss that mass of people that can get upset when something happens to adult education. You know, if you close a school in a neighborhood, you'll probably have all the parents demonstrating. If you close an adult education center, I know you managed it in Norway, I think recently, to actually get people involved and not, work against a cut in financing. But normally, you do not get the masses. But if we can we maybe use EPALE, and I'm looking at all of you, that if we have advocacy campaigns, if we need to underline the necessity of adult education, and I think every one of you knows that it can be difficult in a national context, in a regional context, to actually get together and with the electronic possibilities that we have, make enough noise to underline the necessity of adult learning and to use it as a powerful campaign tool. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gina. I'm sure as our speakers talk, you'll have, they'll trigger lots of ideas in your minds and hopefully lots of questions. But what I want to do is save the questions until all our speakers have had the opportunity to talk, and then we can deal with any questions for them at the end. I'd like now to welcome our next speaker, who is Philippe Lomond from the Association pour la formation professionnelle des adultes, to give, I guess, the perspective of media professionals.
Good afternoon, thank you very much. I plan to make this presentation in French, but I will try to make it in English, so I apologize if you don't understand everything. As it has been said, I am a journalist. I am the editor of a magazine which is called Débat Formation, which is edited in France by an association which name is AFPA, Association Nationale pour la Formation Professionnelle des Adultes, which is dealing with formation of adult people and young people. And this association is part of the National Public Service of Employment in France. And it is the first association of this kind in France and I guess in Europe, with the name of with the number of people who are formed each year in France. It's about 50,000 million of formation hours of formation each year, and about 140,000 people who are formed each year with AFPA. And Débat Formation is a magazine about everything which is concerned with formation in France, which is dealing with what is happening about formation in the enterprise, in the different regions, on the territory of France, what is happening with the new law which has been voted last year in France and which is reforming completely the formation business in France. And also a magazine which is dealing with what are the main purpose about formation in France and in Europe. And what is very interesting for us with EPALE is just to see what is done in different enterprises in Europe, what is done with different organisms who are dealing with formation in Europe, what are the main purposes, what are the things people are dealing with or are analyzing, and what we can say about that, and what is how those subjects are concerned in France and are analyzed in France, and what we can say about that. And what is very important for us also in EPALE is all the experience which is expressed on the site. And for instance, it will allow us to meet some people, to meet experts, to see what experts say about formation and what are the main debates which are important in Europe about this matter, and how we can deal with this in the magazine. Maybe if we can interview some European experts and not just French people, but speaking about different experts in Europe about formation. That's all.
Thank you very much, Philippe. Now, thank you. Now it's our opportunity to hear from this perspective from, if you like, from the side of universities, from the European University Continuing Education Network. And I'm delighted to welcome Alfredo Suero to talk. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank EPALE for the opportunity to present what UCAN is doing. And I think I have a couple of slides. If I don't, I will...
What would you like? There you are. It's just the green
Oh,
button
okay.
at the top.
Thank you for the EPALE team, because we made this in a rush, but it's ready. So I'm from the University of Porto. I've been with the UCAN since the beginning. I'm now a member of the steering committee, and I'm also a member of the expert vet providers group of the DG Employment, where there are 6 vet associations. What is UCAN? UCAN is European University Continuing Education Network. It was formally created in 1992, and it has a large activity in professional development, of course, for adults, in what we call continuing education. It has about 200 members. Most are universities. The others are national associations for lifelong learning or continuing education of universities or higher education institutions. UCAN has 2 events per year. One is a thematic conference. The next is in Istanbul with a theme that I think it's interesting for EPALE, which is somehow covering the whole spectrum between vet and higher education. It's called Building Bridges. The second type of event that UCAN has every year is a workshop. And again, the theme for this year is assessment of learning outcomes and competences, which is something that it makes part of the game of adult learning, and it was mentioned in the morning with the open badges. But for certain organizations, especially companies and professional organizations, it's very important that the competences and learning outcomes are verified with quality and with assurance that it's done the right way. So that is the topic of the workshop. It will be in Brussels in November. UCAN has been very active in European projects, and I share with Gina this interest in EPALE. I don't know about the others, but we would like to use EPALE, and I'll mention that just in a minute. I would like to mention EPALE as a good opportunity for those who have done projects, research projects, most of them, that sometimes are not known. For instance, this morning we were talking about Ulf Ehlers. I don't know if he's in the room, but I told him during lunch that he opened the space for me. For instance, the question of individualized pathways for adults. And the question of quality of that individualized pathways. We had two projects in the past. Most of these projects are, of course, financed by the European Commission, thanks to that, because it gives opportunity to do research in themes where universities, most of the times, are not very likely to finance. So we did these projects, EQIP and EQIP Plus, so you can see the results, and we are going to place them, of course, on EPALE. The other mentioning that we heard also from Ulf was the question about the validation of prior learning, of informal and non-formal learning. We have done a lot of work. I'm talking about UCAN. I don't know about the others. I've heard 2 of the speakers. But we have done a lot of work on that area. We have two currently project going on with this subject in Russia, but we have done it in Europe with a lot of effort. There is including an observatory, which is called, in a network, which is called ObservalNet, where you can see a lot of case studies of this question of validation, rules, legislation, etc. So, and the third one is, for instance, another project that I was thinking that it's interesting for you, is how TALOE, which is how to assess learning outcomes for different types of learning outcomes and competencies. If you look at the European Qualification Framework, if you look at the 3 categories, most of the times the assessment is done in writing or with the portfolios or something similar. So we are addressing other ways that are more adequate to assess those competences. Of course, we would like to record on EPALE the events, our courses, our projects, news, especially consult with the others. I mean, we have here some partners. I hope that there are other partners that will fill information and contact so we can proceed with this collaboration about adult learning and professional continuing education. And of course, we see very well UCAN, and I'm always talking about UCAN. In this case, it's exactly my personal opinion. I see with very good eyes this initiative from the Commission, because this follows something that existed 15 years ago, the thematic networks, where there was, for instance, a thematic network on university continuing education, but where to put the results. And this is a way to concentrate information, knowledge, and other tools that are suitable for adult learning. Of course, these are the three perspectives: the information, the interaction with others, and the training that we are expecting from EPALE. And finally, we think, UCAN thinks that this is the EPALE will play a major role in the qualification of the population in Europe. That's our position and our contribution to this conference. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Alfredo. As we're all learners here, you will, of course, spotted my deliberate pedagogical mistake, designed to make sure that no one's falling asleep at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which was to slightly change the order. Next, I'm delighted to welcome Marcella Milana from the European Society for Research on the Education of Adults to give us a perspective from the research community.
Thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation to be here. I just to locate myself, as it was told, I'm associate professor in adult education. This means that I represent a university where I teach and research. But here I'm also representing the ESREA, the European Society for Research on the Education of Adults. And before providing the views somehow from the society's perspective as well as the academic that I represent also in my own personal work, I would like to provide some background information of ESREA and its role in the field that it's covered by the EPALE. ESREA is a non-profit scientific organization. It was actually created in 1991, so has the kind of similar history of EUSIN. And it was established to create a Europe-wide forum for all researchers where they could meet and discuss research at theoretical and empirical level on the education of adults at that time. But of course, over these 20 years, we have developed together with the field. So of course, we do embrace research on the education of adults and adult learning in broader terms. Who are the members of ESREA? Basically, members can be both individuals and institutions, and but they have to be engaged in research on education of adults and adult learning. So this means that we gather mostly at institutional levels. We gather mostly other universities or national scientific organizations, for which we then become a kind of umbrella organization, let's say. But we also gather a lot of individuals, mostly working in the university, but not necessarily, and also PhD students and so younger researchers, I would say. It is primarily people that live and work in Europe, but we do also have members who come from outside Europe. So actually it is also very important. One of the aspects that is very important for us about EPALE is its multilingual approach. That is one of the main policies that also our society has. And also the dialogue that was mentioned earlier today. with, of course, within Europe, but also with outside Europe. It's very important. Still on ESREA, because this could help to understand how we could use EPALE and how we could contribute to its implementation. ESREA basically run several activities. The first is to encourage cooperation among active researchers. And we do this through a very flat democratic approach because the society is structure organized in thematic research networks, each of which boost interdisciplinary research, but on specific theme or thematic issues. And we have active, at the moment, there are 12 active research networks, one on access, one on active democracy, one on professional development of adult educators and trainers, on local community development on older adults, on policy studies, on working life and learning, on life history as a method for research and as a pedagogical method, on the history. So it's quite a broad variety of themes. And the research networks gathers every 1 or 2 years in scientific conferences, but also ESREA as such, the bigger family, gathers every 3 years. So that the entire spectrum of research undertaken by its member is represented in conferences and discussed and debated and shared every 3 years, but specific themes run more regularly. Another way we do support the dissemination and promotion of research is also through publications. Publications by ESREA are very often based on research that was presented and discussed at conferences, but could also include other type of research that and we are very keen on open source publications. So in that sense, we also see a very important element in EPALE to make information accessible through geographical borders, also thanks to a focus on open source and digital available resources. And ESREA has both a scientific journal that is open source and therefore free and available for everybody to access, and also has a book series. Right now, the newest one is its 4th book, and all these books are also open source. So this is also so. That said, several things were mentioned about EPALE that, from our perspective, would still be relevant. I already mentioned the multilingual approach. I think it's very important for us because researchers very often, and we do have the same problem within our society, although we represent most part of Europe and behind, when we gather and exchange information through our publication, in our conferences, we're always getting into the language problem because we don't have resources to do translations. And but a platform like EPALE, if in its ambition is followed up at the implementation level, could be a place where I'm thinking, for example, at the resource center, could be a place where publications, policy documents, report and information on best practices can be made available in national languages because they already exist as products and as knowledge, but can be made accessible from everywhere in Europe and behind. And this would be already per se a great, I think, added value of having EPALE and not just other platforms that also provide access to individual products. The other thing, from the research perspective, I have to say, this morning it was mentioned that EPALE is addressing multiple stakeholders. And from a strictly research perspective, we feel the research community is less on focus than others. I think that, as has been also pointed out, well, it's important to have dialogues across providers, academics, researchers, policymakers. At the same time, dialogue is not doesn't come just putting these people together. So in that sense, EPALE is a great opportunity to become a relevant, important place for all these people to look at. But I think differential access should be provided to make it easier for different, at least thinking of researchers, for example. I can see there is a lot of potentials and a lot of information, but it's not necessarily easy to find what I look for depending on my search for information. I can search, for example, to other research that is made available. I can search for policy document. I can search for following up on blogs, what are that the community is discussing. But I think that on a technical level, maybe there could be found better forms to help individualized access, in a way, to the information. Just 2 extra minutes. I did focus specifically on the resource center because I was asked to comment specifically on that. And I have to say that I find it very helpful that there is a lot of very good information about, title of resources, dates, language, author, etc. It's very good that there are tags, that there are filters, but I think also that there is space for improvements there to make the resources more easily researchable according to specific focuses. And I can give more practical tips to those who do that kind of work. So in short, to conclude, Israel is very keen on this project to move forward. We have already informed our members who have been invited to have a look and think how individually they can access and contribute. As a society, as an organization, we can contribute by disseminating our publications, information about our events, and we can also benefit from using information that is shared. But as I said, the multilingual approach, that it's not that visible at present, for us would be the very added value of EPALE compared to other platforms that exist.
Thank you very much. Last but by no means least, we have a perspective from policymakers, and I'm very pleased to welcome Lisbeth Bermandera from the Flemish Government, the Ministry of Education and Training.
Hello, my name is, like the introducer said, Lisbeth Bermandera, and I work for the Flemish Department of Education and Training in the Adult Education Unit. In the department, we support the minister, the Flemish minister, in evaluating and developing new policy with regards to education and training, obviously. Since the beginning of 2014, I've also been a member of the technical working group on adult learning, the initiative by the European Commission, which is expected to have some very valuable and interesting outputs by the end of this year, and I'm sure they will put it on EPALE, so it will be visible for all. And it's about 3 main subjects: basic skills, policy effectiveness, and also the third is the use of ICT in adult learning. So you can look forward to that. I'm also, I have also been appointed as national coordinator for the implementation of the European Agenda for Adult Learning in Flanders. We're currently working on exploring the possibilities of signing a 2-year contract with the Commission in order to do that. In my earlier professional life, I have been a teacher in adult education for a few years. I've also been an educational coordinator in a prison. for a few years. And then I have worked in 2 regional platforms for adult education. So it is all very different but very complementary experiences which have learned me 1 or 2 things about adult education. And the most obvious one, which I've heard today many times, is the fact that adult education, the landscape of adult education is very fragmented, very heterogeneous, and which makes it very challenging for policymakers to make sure there's this coherent and integrated policy that covers this broad spectrum of adult education sector. I'm happy to know that there are many people who are keen to irritating the policymakers, and I don't think I am. We are the administrative side of policymakers, and the decisions are always with politicians, to be clear. But it is true, it is important that the adult education sector, if you compare it with the other educational sectors, has the least, the most silent voice, because traditionally the emphasis has always been on compulsory education on the one hand, and then higher education on the other hand, and adult education tends to be not that high up on the priority list. But on the other hand, it is very important, and I think this importance also starts to translate itself not only in the field of politicians and politically, but also in society as a whole. I think one thing that is very obvious that many organizations are working or focusing on adult education, and being it formal, non-formal, or informal, that's less the matter. It's important that we have this coherent and integrated policy, which is quite a challenge. If I look at EPALE, I think there are a few, and during my preparation, there were 3 main words that I wrote, and that was dissemination, and I've heard that many times, but I can confirm that as well, that it's very important for all these initiatives and these bottom-up grown projects that they find a way to disseminate to broad public for people who are professionally involved in adult education. So that's a very strong plus point. Also, the visibility of the sector, because there have been many platforms, there have been many initiatives, but there's not just this one-stop shop where we can find all this information. So the visibility of the sector, and the thing is what Gina said, that it could help, will help us, hopefully, to let the voice of adult learning sector be heard more loudly. And the third point that I wrote down is enhance the quality by learning from each other and by sharing expertise. So that's the 3 main issues. If I then think of policymakers, and I represent this point of view today, so I think first of all, it's a huge source of very relevant, interesting, and important research topics. So this database, to say it like that, is very valuable. But on the other hand is the engagement part. It allows you not only to do this policy making from, in our case, in Brussels, but it helps you to have another way to interact with many people who are professionally involved in it. So that's a very big plus. We can, if for instance we have struggled with a question, we can put it on this forum or try to find a way to let people brainstorm about it online. I was asked to focus on the forums, but seeing that they're not fully functional, that is a bit difficult, has been a bit difficult. The only thing I can add is, I think it was Graciela who said that these forums are, I don't think she used the word glue, but it might be the glue or the how do you say it? It points you to the right. If you have a question, it points you to relevant publications which have been uploaded or relevant people who can help you. And this is a very important role that this forum could play. I think it's a work in progress, and another thing that I miss a little bit is the reflection of the European agenda for adult learning, because that are the European policy makers' priorities, and in the division of the themes, it's not all that clear to me that we follow this structure. But like I said, it's a work in progress, and I'm very happy that EPALE is launched today, and I'm very hopeful for the future. So we too can use it for policy making. Thank you.
Now we have 5 or 10 minutes to take questions from the floor. If you would like to ask a question, could you make sure you tell us who you are and where you're from? And also, if you have a question for a specific member of our panel, please do indicate which of them you would like to answer. Otherwise, I'll just have to make an arbitrary decision, and that would be a bit unfair. A microphone will come round, I think. Here it comes.
My name is Vanna Boffo. I am coming from Italy, from University of Florence, but in this moment I am representing an association of universities in Italy named RUIAP, an association of 30 universities that are working on lifelong learning, on the learning continuing, and on the pedagogy of work. So I am very, very happy to stay here because a lot of things that I saw this morning, for example, we are doing MOOC. During the last academic year, we have a MOOC into one university, and this MOOC is for not only the researcher, only the professor, but for the trainers, for educators, and so on. We have a master on the recognition of prior learning. So at the level of the universities, at the level of the research, I agree a lot with Marcella Milana. The EPALE platform is very important because significant a situation in Europe that where it will be possible to connect a lot of the research, a lot of things, and a lot of the ideas for the political level and for the policymakers. But my problem here, in this moment, is for the trainers and educators, the level that in Italy has a digital divide. So I want to put in front of you the problem of the digital divide from the cultural point of view and from the technical point of view, technological point of view. Not every country has German, has England, or so on. So my question is, what can we do about the digital divide and about the digital divide in that countries that in Europe there are with this type of problems?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anyone would like to tackle the issue of the digital divide? Gina, would you like to maybe address that question? Thank you very much.
Yes, I mean, the issue of the digital divide, whenever we talk about virtual learning, is a key issue. Again, here we're talking about a very specific group. I have mentioned especially younger adult educators as a target group, where probably the digital divide is less an issue. But what I'm thinking of, can we think of launching or strengthening intergenerational learning between adult educators in order to manage or in order to bring more adult educators to use computers, webinars, and so on. Actually, I see that as a very nice project to really bring people together or maybe to look at mentoring ambassadors, of existing adult educators who have colleagues who might not be able to use the computer, and try and bring them together. Probably an approach like that would work. But yes, you're absolutely right. There is an issue of people having access, people having computers. We were also talking, and we've mentioned a few times, what we are also hoping that we can work with our colleagues in the non-EU countries. We do have colleagues in Georgia, Azerbaijan, in Russia, Ukraine, and so on, who are very interested in what's going on in Europe, who want to join the debates. We also have an issue of digital access. But I do believe that if we reinforce peer learning and intergenerational learning, we could get a step further.
It's a great idea for a blog as well, intergenerational learning for adult educators. Mm-hmm. It's on my list. Any more questions? Have a microphone down here? Thanks.
Hi, Paul Talbot, EPEA. It was talked about this morning that the EPALE has these national support structures. Is there any scope or anything foreseen, or can you imagine a sectoral support structure being in place? I'm thinking that there are lots of existing organizations that are very sector-specific. For example, the European Prison Education Association, but also other organizations that have evolved through European cooperation in the direction of hospital education or the validation of informal competences. Is anything foreseen, or do you think it could work to have some means of a strong sectoral support structure for these organizations that are transnational rather than focused in any particular country?
Maybe, do you have a view from the research community in that respect?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I didn't think of that before, but I can see the rationale in it because, what I was thinking also this morning when the EPALE was presented, there was this sense, I felt a bit of a kind of conflict between the idea that is a shared community where we are those that benefit as well as implement it, but at the same time, there is always a small community that is implementing it. So there is always a we and you tension. So maybe this could also be a way to kind of overcome that tension by having different forms of the entire spectrum of the community to be represented, not only as an individual user and contributor, but in thinking the very implementation of the platform. So that I think could be actually a good way through. Ideally, then in practice, we have to consider many other things, but I think that could be one direction to go.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. Question at the back there?
Alina Respondek from Polish NSS. I have a practical question. One of the main aim of the EPALE is to share best practices and ideas between users, stakeholders, adult education stakeholders. The question is how and in which way the NSS, the National Support Services and the Central Support Services can support this process. How we can be better in encouraging users to share the ideas and experiences. Whether the blogs, short messages, news are good enough, maybe we should do something more. Could you please answer on that?
So the question was about the national support services and the...
We have to and we should encourage this process of sharing experiences and best practices between users. In which way we can do it better?
That may be, I guess that's a question of how things are organised within countries, and it may be best if that's picked up maybe in the session in a moment on going forwards by someone from the Commission. I think that might be the way to handle that, so maybe we can have someone from the Commission pick up on that, if that's okay. Any more questions? Alan, yes. There'll be a temporary interlude. On British television, they used to have someone at a potter's wheel making pots. Yes. See, Alan remembers as well.
This is a feature of age. I wanted to ask each of the five, if we came back in 2 years' time and you were asked, was it a success, what would it be that you would expect EPALE to have done to be successful?
That's a very good lead into our last session, actually. Oh, I have excellent.
Yeah, I can start. I mean, for us, it would be the number of our main indicator would be the number of contacts we could have from other organizations or individuals or government agencies. It will be the number of contacts as a result of it.
Yes, the number of contacts and also the number of people who haven't been involved before in debates, bringing in new ideas, bringing in new approaches and exchanging them.
Questions.
So
Questions?
Yes, questions. So there's the quantitative level, and I absolutely agree, and the quality coming out of it.
I think I will be happy if I see that in our Flemish region, that all the stakeholders that are working in the sector, if they have an event or if they have a publication or a release of something, that they constantly link it to EPALE themselves, and if they have something that they have a Twitter account, and it's a reflex in their mind to link that and to share this with that would make it more than the number of people, although that's a different angle. Would that be, and also for if we have new policy, that in our department, that also people tend to make this click and thinking, trying to looking for information and things on EPALE, so that's it comes automatically. That would be nice.
I think that I would like to see that more research is being read by non-researchers and hopefully used, but also that researchers are better at researching ongoing processes and being quicker at understanding and following the changes in the field. So that's, I think, what I would like to see, that this is a way to help this communication.
I think the point will be the number of good subjects I will find on the platform, and which with I will be able to write articles on, the different experts I could interview and to write articles. I think as many as possible. It will be a good sign of success.
Excellent. And I'll take one more question in this user perspective session. Someone near a microphone, that's good.
Christian Bernard from the German NSS. We have a project in Germany in EPALE, which is we're trying to foster subjects in adult education in certain periods of time. At the moment, it's digital learning and adult education. Now I'm playing for you the good fairy. You have wishes. Each of you has one wish. What subjects, in your perspective, need to be treated next in EPALE?
So that was what are people's priorities for subjects, like for treatment next on the platform? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would be?
We didn't.
No. What would be your priorities for like the next subject for treatment on the platform? Top priority, or are there too many?
Well, for us, it would be the results of past projects and ongoing projects.
I find it a bit difficult because it says next subject, and the subject my heart is closest to, and I find key, is already online, and that is the issue of social inclusion and outreach and engaging new learners. And I think that if we really manage to have inputs from all over Europe and an exchange where we constantly are aware that this is one of our key tasks, that is for me one of, yes, that's for me the top priority. But it's already there and it has started, and hopefully it will continue and grow and find a lot of participants.
I think the results of the working groups under the European Commission, the results of the national coordinators' contracts, national new policy that has been implemented and evaluated, and results of that, benchmarks, and to see how far we've come to reach these benchmarks. All these kinds are very interesting. But I'm sure that parts of them are already, but it's now not clustered in one, and that might also be something that, because it's attached to these themes and divided a little bit, so it will have to...
Well, it's not easy, and the answers are always biased by own interest and focus. I think I would like to see more on the governance of adult education and learning, because I felt there is a strong focus on the practice, but sometimes we forget that the practice is framed by many other things, and I would like more of a critical reflection on what frames the practice.
Yeah. And Philippe, would you have a final priority?
A bit difficult to answer for me because I'm more an observer than an actor. So, but I think what I am an economic journalist. So what is very important for me is what is done in the enterprises and what the enterprises are making with adult training. And so I would like to have maybe more experiences about the enterprises on the platform.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. We're sliding, which is very nice, into the final session, which is really about looking forward in terms of how we can further develop the platform. So if I may, I will ask our user panelists just to remain until the end of this discussion, because it might be useful to have your inputs for one last time. I was going to ask you, actually, towards the end of this session, if you could say, give us one thing that you would actually take away from today's events. That's been a little bit preempted by two further questions like that, but I think it's a fairly simple question, but it's always good to reflect on what our learning has been. So I'm now opening the floor to you receive your views on the ways in which the platform might be improved, and your overall kind of reflections on the platform. And there's a hand gone up already, which is great.
So my name is Astrid Krohn. I'm from the NSS Norway. I thought it was interesting to hear what success would look like for you, as you are part of the ecosystem. And as Poland pointed out, I think one of the challenges that we, the national NSSs, will have is to engage our ecosystems. So when you told us what success would look like for you, I'm asking you, what will you do to get your ecosystems to dance and help us create this dynamic EPALE community? How will you engage your own ecosystems?
I think that's a very good question and very difficult one to answer. So I think maybe we'll hold that as a sort of contribution to the outputs of the conference, if we may, unless anyone is burning to answer that. It's very difficult.
Well, I can say something as you can. We have several national associations and that are members of UCAN and are involved in adult professional education, continuing professional development. So we would like them to get involved, and that's something that we will probably do in the next conference, to get these associations involved with the respective NSSS. Because we cannot speak as countries, but they can, because they are national recognized and legal associations in each one of the countries, so they can work with the respective NSSs to progress and to make them lively and connected with UCAN. That's what I can say.
Thanks very much, Alfredo. Thank you. Any more contributions, observations on today and what people have learnt, or what they would like to see on the platform.
My name is Eva Duda. I'm from Center of Continuing Education in Warsaw, and I know that the main aim of the Erasmus Plus program is to work together. But from my experience, it's the hardest thing to find partners, okay, and to find people with who we will work. Okay, and I want to ask you if you think if this EPALE partner search tool will be good for finding partners to work together, because generally the education for adults is really huge area, and we have completely different goals, and it's really, really hard to find some institution who has the same aim than we have, okay? And because if we want to do something good, we have to have the same goal, okay? So do you think it has the chance to make a good research panel, something like that?
So I guess that's a kind of a networking question, a question about how associations actually bring people together. Alfredo, have you got any reflections on that as a
I think I've spoken too much, but anyway, I'll say, well, let me, I've been broker between several associations, so the question is, you have to know each other. You have to go to conferences, you have to meet them, you have to call them, you have to have trust, mostly. If you want to work with others, with other associations, you have to know them and you have to trust them. It's like dating before marriage. So that's where I recommend. That's
the
where
EPALE
I recommend.
dating agency. That's what we need.
Well.
Yes. We'll put that on the list. Hang on a moment. Right. Any final? Yeah.
Oh, yes. Again, Arūnas Bėkšta from Lithuanian Association of Adult Education. My contribution will be now first kind of recommendations and wishes, possibly. I have 2 points. One of them will be a little bit more elaborated. First, challenge. How to develop the platform that users are not lost in the ocean of information and cloud of tags. That would be, and already we had already today several suggestions. We are talking about subject, topical areas, etc. But my suggestion would be not to jump from the very beginning into the changes. We have to live with our mistakes at least for 1 year, and then analyzing the situation, then we need to make the decisions. And I would like also to suggest for our developers of the platform also to consider community self-management tools for the platform. And the other topic and challenge is what already was mentioned in the morning session about quality, and especially when the team was presented, everybody was speaking about the quality of ensuring the quality of information in the platform. And I see that we are now, and it's my personal experience already from working for several weeks with EPALE in Lithuania, that we could jump in a vicious circle of control of quality and vicious circle of control at all, using administrative tools. The way how information is collected, processed, and put on the platform is based on quality control of the text, etc. And it could just warning, because from my experience, long experience in different countries and then projects, that from one hand it could lead to the censorship. We should think about that. It could lead to voluntary decisions of putting or not putting and deciding relevant information or not relevant information by administrators of the platform. And we had already, I have personal experience on that. Quality control, and it could lead and already leads to the delays in time of putting the information and appearing it in the platform. And especially, I think that it's not necessary for those comments and in the blogs and comments of blogs and then reflections on the comments from all medias now which we are using. If you are commenting, you wish it that should appear immediately there. And vicious circle of control and control of control and control of control of control leads to many cases in uncontrollable increase of administrative staff of controllers. And already I heard from several people that already now, even in the beginning of the project, they already feel overburdened, overloaded with work, those who are administrating the topics and national support centers also. So we should think also possibly of using more community self-control methods there instead of administrative control. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other contributions people would like to make? Some at the back there?
Yes, shortly. I'm Ulrika Knutsson from Sweden, from the National Council of Adult Education and the Folk High Schools movements. I just wanted to give a perspective, just in the line of the person talking just before me, that if we would like people to really contribute and to be part of the EPALE platform, the message is also part of the graphic way of how it looks. If it's give you invitation to be part of it, to give pieces into it and to be active into it. And we had a discussion where you can see that today it's very, very strict in one way, very administrative and so. And if you really would like people to come into it, it's much easier to get into it via like Facebook, because it's much more right into it. It's easier to come in. So I think we really need to be, to EPALE to be a success, we need to see how we can work in the way people and the people we want to should be giving in EPALE. We should use the way people do it. So that way. Okay?
Okay, thank you very much. Time for a couple more comments? Yeah.
I'm Kari Nicolai. I'm from the Flemish Support Service. And I'm coming back to an earlier question. I think the question was, will there be a good partner search to find good partners on EPALE? And I don't think that's the people of the panel that can answer the question.
No. Right. Any other? Is one in the middle here?
Hello, I'm Colleen Blythe from Adult Learning in Scotland, and I would like to say that I'm exceedingly optimistic because I'm a lifelong learner, and what I'm going to do is go back to Scotland and share the learning I've had today, and I've already made notes of the kinds of things that we could contribute. Potentially, I'm quite excited about it and can see it being very, very valuable. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. On behalf of everybody here. Any final remarks? As the temperature is going up in this room, the brain cells slow down inevitably. I'll return to my unfair question at the start of this, which was asking the panel to say one thing they had actually, just one thing, they'd learnt during the course of the day. I've learnt the word EPALIsh, which Graciela used. which is a great word. I think it's up to us to. I don't know what that actually means at the moment, but I think it's up to us to give it some meaning. So we should all go away feeling, to some degree, EPALE-ish after this event. So if I could ask you to, I'll start around this side first. Could you just give one example of something that you will take away from today?
From this day?
Yeah, from this day.
So many things, I think. But, maybe the numbers of people of different countries who are involved in this operation, in this platform. I was so surprised to see, so many countries, European countries. I think it's very impressive.
Yeah. Lisbeth?
I think hope is the word. I think concerning this person, the man who had his doubts about, first of all, quality, and second, all these things, I think as the public administrations, we share that concern, but there are many options, and I think that if they look at how people tend to search and they try to take all this information into account and for further structuring the website, and there are many possibilities, but it will be a difficult exercise, and it will be all or nothing, I think. But I'm very hopeful.
And Gina?
The summary is probably, we've come a long way, baby.
Since this morning, or generally?
I was reflecting on a way when I started in adult education in Austria as a trainer, where, if you were a trainer, you wouldn't really know what the adult education center on the other side of the street was doing. We were really extremely concerned with working in our own environment, and then joining the EU, and also being able to join programs where we started to exchange. And the Grundtvig Learning Partnerships and the Grundtvig program, that has really facilitated an exchange across Europe, and a learning experience where I think in the last 12 years or so, really a community has been built. Also, of course, supported by organizations like ESRI and UKIN and EAEA, but also now where we're now talking about a multilingual interactive platform where the possibilities of cooperation are even bigger than they were. So that is an enormous, development and trip from being very, very local to being very, very open. Yeah. And hopefully it will lead to all that we're hoping for.
Yeah.
Hope.
Thank you. And Alfredo, the final word.
Yeah, I share the opinions. I think that this panorama of adult learning, I started almost 30 years ago, and I'm an engineer, so I'm not an adult educator, I'm an engineer, a teacher. And sometimes you have the tendency in the past to despair because there was no progress. But I've seen in the last years, like Gina was mentioned, it has been a tremendous development. I think this strategy of having the concentration on adult learning is something that will probably motivate a lot of people, a lot of organizations, policymakers, politicians, because it's really the basis of the development of society. And I'm very happy to see this transformation and all these people that are. I didn't see anybody fall asleep, so I think that this is a lot of interest in these discussions, and I'm very happy for that.
Thanks very much. It's always a good indicator to have, isn't it? The falling asleep indicator. I'm sure you'd like to join me in thanking our panel this afternoon for their excellent contributions, and also being up here under these lights, which is even hotter, I think, than being down there.
It's like being an
thank you very much. And it's my privilege to hand back to Sophie to make some closing remarks.
Well, thank you, Andrew. Thank you to the panel, and thank you for your participation. Graciela was saying in the beginning of the afternoon that success is dependent on the participation of all. Well, listening to you, listening to the room, I see that, well, this is already a good success factor to see that you have been participating and sharing with us your expectations and what would be your priorities for this platform. I have taken several notes during this afternoon and heard your different expectations. Well, many were mentioning that this platform could give many opportunities for additional contacts with other organizations, and we certainly hope that this platform will enable to feed a European debate on what adult education could bring in your daily life. So we certainly hope that it will be a place where there will be lots of questions, lots of debate, hopefully some responses as well. But what is important is, as was said before by one of the members of the panel, is also to listen what are the key subjects on which you would like to discuss and where you expect some policymakers to enter into the debate. There are several priorities that have been mentioned, sharing, of course, the results of our projects, working together on improving social inclusion in particular, and this is certainly something on which we are very keen to participate. How can we bring people that are usually outside of the employment mainstream, how can they use also, thanks to this platform, can they be engaged into the labor market? How can they learn from each other, thanks to your participation, thanks to your help? We also mentioned that we need to work together on a better governance of adult education. And there were several recommendations that we have heard as well, and we will take into consideration when further elaborating the platform, which is avoid users being lost, because we are sure that there will be a lot of content, and of course it needs to be well structured so that we can find what we are looking for. We need to avoid the vicious circle of control was mentioned. Of course, it must be something that is really used by the community, that is led by the people that really that want to use it. And we need to use the way people communicate, was also said. We have started using Twitter, Facebook. Well, of course, those are tools that we need to keep on using. So I started this session this afternoon by saying that I see the platform as a way of putting stakeholders together, different people from different countries, from different interests, from different target groups. Lisbeth was using the word glue, and I think this really can be a glue between ourselves with a view to develop adult education together. And this platform can also be a platform for, as I said, collecting contributions, even if they are critical, of course, or conflicting. That's, I think, what can enrich the debate. So let's use it. Let's make it a real tool by using as much as possible the platform. So I would also like to use this word of hope. So I really hope that you will use EPALE, that you will propose content and directions, even if we shouldn't be changing all the time and going in different directions to adapt to several needs. But we certainly need to hear what you think are the greatest problems, the greatest challenges, but also the key successes and the key elements that you want to see further developed to help you work better. So please also do promote EPALE through your networks. Share the learning that you have had today, as our Scottish colleague was saying before. And, well, last thing that I would like to do today is really thanking you again, all the speakers, all the contributors, both in the room, but also the ones that were participating with us in this session virtually, thanks to the different to the digital tools. Thanks also to the interprets and all the staff of the EPALE Central Support Service that has worked very hard to organize this conference, and generally for building the platform and continuing until the last minute, improving it to be able to show you a platform that is valuable to contribute to. I would also like to thank all the colleagues in the national support services who have supported the organization of this event and who have supported positively the start of this EPALE platform. And also like to thank the colleagues in both the Commission and in the agency that have also supported this event, but also more generally the launch of the platform, and we will continue working to make it a friendly, user-friendly, usable tool for all of you. So now I would like to invite you all to celebrate the launch of EPALE. There will be a cocktail reception just next door, and when going there, please don't forget to give back your headsets. Thanks a lot. Enjoy now the rest of the day. Enjoy the evening. And thanks a lot again for your participation now and in the future.